2 down and 2 to go on the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, and we're close to the end on the road to French Lick. Hello, welcome once again to the Road to French Lick, a show chronicling the 2024 Korn Ferry Tour season. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here with us. On this episode, we will look at the second of 4 events in the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, and we'll spin ahead to this latest third event in the series, the Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship in Columbus, Ohio, which will determine the top 75 players in the standings on the Korn Ferry Tour points list who will qualify for the season-ending Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance, held for the next 5 years at the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. And it is at that tournament where we will determine the top 30 players in the standings at the end of the season, and all of those players will earn PGA Tour cards for 2025. About half of those have already been locked up, and we'll talk about that in this episode. We are also joined by Bryson Nimmer and Joe Weiler, players who are looking to move up in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings with the hope of qualifying not only for the Tour Championship, but also being one of those 30 players to earn a PGA Tour card for next season. Before we get to that, however, we need to recap the second event in the Korn Ferry Tour Final Series, the Simmons Bank Open, which benefits the Snedeker Foundation, held at the Vanderbilt Legends Club just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. 4-round tournament with a $1.5 million purse and 600 Korn Ferry Tour points to the winner, a 20% increase over the regular season. Top 144 players in the point standings were eligible for this tournament, and they made their way to Tennessee for the 4-round event. Longtime globe-trotting American professional Paul Peterson was the winner of the tournament, and he won by a single shot, went 20 under, 260, beating fellow American Matt Atkins, who was having a great week, shot a 63 in the second round and a 61 in the third round to give himself a great chance at the win. However, Peterson shot 4 rounds in the 60s, 64, 63, 67, 66, to get to that 20 under total and win on the Korn Ferry Tour. Morgan Hoffman, who's a name you'll remember from his PGA Tour days and has taken several years off related to health conditions, he has come back and played very well in this event. He finished tied for third along with PGA Tour veteran Fabian Gomez, as well as Max McGreevy, who's having himself a tremendous season on the Korn Ferry Tour, second in the point standings, Emilio Gonzalez, and Ryan Gerard, one of the hottest players in the world at the moment. With the win, Paul Peterson picked up 600 Korn Ferry Tour points, moving him up to 18th place in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings, now assuring him a spot on the PGA Tour in 2025. The top 19 players in the points list heading into the Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship now have assured themselves of PGA Tour cards for next season. That includes Isaiah Salinda, who's had himself a tremendous year and is 19th on the points list. So, for the top 30 players at the end of the season, their order is important to how they qualify for the events on the PGA Tour schedule for which they can gain entry. The first and top-ranked player at the end of the season not only earns fully exempt status on the PGA Tour, they're above the reshuffle, they also gain entry into the U.S. Open and the Players' Championship. That player is Matt McCarty at the moment. He also faces an interesting situation this week in Columbus, Ohio. If he finishes the week more than 600 points ahead of Max McGreevy, who is number 2 on the points list, he technically does not have to play the Korn Ferry Tour Championship to maintain his number 1 status and therefore earn those exemptions into the U.S. Open and the Players, and also to be fully exempt for next year. So that's an interesting backdrop to this week, and will allow him the opportunity to go play in the Sanderson Farms Championship on the PGA Tour instead of the season-ending tournament on the Korn Ferry Tour. With all of that said, we take a look now at the top 5 players in the Korn Ferry Tour standings through the Simmons Bank Open. It remains unchanged after this event. Matt McCarty, with his 3-win season and 3-win promotion, is number 1 on the points list at 2,588 points. Max McGreevy remains second at 2,018 points. Tim Vieding is third at 1,686 points. Stephen Fisk is fourth at 1,636 points. And Taylor Dixon rounds out the top 5 at 1,384 points. Our first guest this week on the road to French Lick is Bryson Nimmer, who has made his way through the first 2 legs of the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, playing himself barely into the field for the Albertsons Boise Open, managing one of his best finishes of the season to get into the next stage, the Simmons Bank Open, where he continued to play well and earn himself a spot in this week's Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship. The recently married Nimmer joins us to talk about his run through the Korn Ferry Tour Finals season and his recent marriage.
Bryson, what you got, baby, man? You got some extra gas in the tank.
That's right. Just trying to turn it on at the right time, I guess.
And tell us about the last couple of weeks. I mean, you just got married.
Yep, got married 2 weeks ago, so that was awesome. Kind of took a week off of golf and got to just enjoy that, and then got back to work last week and worked out, had a great week, and hopefully keep it going.
How was the weather last week? It looked a little iffy, yeah.
It was iffy. It was amazing. We got all 4 rounds in, which was really cool. I was kind of thinking there for a little bit. I think everybody thought it'd be a 36 or 50 hole event, 54 event, but we got all 72, and it was a good week.
How's the pulse been? I mean, it's the playoffs. You're pumping, you're grinding. I mean, you're living for the next day out here, and you're like the perfect example of how the playoff system works. If you play well, you get in, and you're off and running. How do you change your zap zone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just worked out well for me. I kind of found some stuff at the right time, and my game started to click when it needed to, and that's all kind of what we hope for, is just to do it when you need to do it. And the playoffs is a cool atmosphere in the fact that you get a little bit more points, you can kind of make a move, and I've taken advantage of that so far. I just need to keep taking advantage of it.
So if Clemson would come to Ohio State to play football, what are we thinking here?
We looked good last 2 weeks ago against App State, so I mean,
it's App State, dude.
It's App State, but you know what? We put up 66 points, I think, which is good. So I think we'd play them pretty close right now. I'm not going to say we'd beat them, but we'd play them pretty close.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we enjoy watching you, man. Congratulations on the marriage, and best of luck to you, and we're pulling for you, brother.
I appreciate it. Hopefully see you at French Lick.
Oh, yeah.
Let's reset for you everything that's on the line this week in Columbus, Ohio, where the top 120 players in the standings qualified for the Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship. After this week, the top 75 players in the standings qualify for the season-ending Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance, and those 75 players are guaranteed full status on the Korn Ferry Tour for next year. The top 30 players in the point standings at the end of that tournament earn PGA Tour cards for 2025. So by qualifying for the tournament, you give yourself a guaranteed place to play next year, and with the opportunity for that place to play to be the PGA Tour in 2025. In Columbus, Ohio, there is a cut to the top 65 players in ties after 2 rounds. So that is mission 1 for every player in the field that's trying to break into that top 75 or is just on the cusp of being inside that top 75 marker. Get to the weekend, earn Korn Ferry Tour points, and assure yourself a spot in French Lick, Indiana to end the season. Brendan Sweeney joins me. We are now through 2 legs of the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. We just wrapped up with the Simmons Bank Open in Tennessee. Paul Peterson was the winner. Saw a really interesting picture. It was shared by Shane Bacon and was one of the caddy for Paul Peterson, who was on the range after Paul had won, and he was on one knee grasping onto Paul Peterson's golf bag, head down. The emotion of the moment was so powerful. Him meant a whole lot to know that he's got a card for next year, to know that his guy's done it. And I think that encapsulates better than so many other things the exact feelings that you go through on the Korn Ferry Tour, especially in moments of success. It's not so much celebration. Brad Fritsch, who's known the PGA Tour, also said it. It's relief.
Yeah. I tell you what, Paul Peterson, what a great story he is. They interviewed him earlier in the week, and he said he's played just about every tour possible in the world, Asia, Mexico, Canada, European, DP, name it. And then I was listening to his thought coach. I think her name's Amy Small. And she also had who won on the tour last week? PGA Tour. Just slipped my mind. Pat Gazire. Same mental swing coach. And so she had 2 victories in the same week. But to hear his story and to be 38 years old, to have his family come in, to just witness that the sense of relief and a sense of accomplishment that what the Korn Ferry Tour can do. I mean, it's life-changing, not only to him, but how about his caddy?
Yeah.
His caddy's going from, eating Chick-fil-A to chewing on steaks next year. So hopefully that's a life changer for him too. That's what the Korn Ferry Tour brings, Ryan. That sums it up right there. And right now, as of this week, with what's going on at the Ohio State course, there's already 14 guys have secured their cards. So there's 16 spots still out there. So Paul Peterson's just one story. He made a tremendous jump from like 68th to 14th on the chart. So there's 600 points available, and a victory for any one of these guys it's life changing. So yeah, these playoffs are pretty exciting. The guys all have great stories. They all have great work ethic, and they all have a goal to achieve greatness on a PGA Tour.
Yeah, it's huge for everyone involved, and we don't often talk about that. We talk about it for what it means for one player to be able to go to the PGA Tour, but it means a lot for so many more people that have rooted for them or depend on them or have lived through it with them. It's cool to have that happen for them, young or old. I mean, Paul Peterson, like you said, has been a globe traveler. I've seen him on Asian Tour leaderboards, European Tour leaderboards, back when it was the European Tour, even before the DP World Tour. He's come a long way, a lot of miles to get to here. At the same time, you got someone like Frankie Sapp in the third who shot a 58 this year, and he has been confirmed as a guy who's going to be one of the 30 who has a card locked up, regardless of what happens in the next couple of weeks. He's going to be on the PGA Tour. A young guy out of Minnesota who has really made a name for himself this year, especially earlier in the year, and he's going to get a crack at the PGA Tour.
Yeah, it's great. I saw his bag yesterday up in Columbus. He's got the big Minnesota Vikings logo on it, which is pretty cool. And anybody by the name that goes by Frankie, it's got to be a feel good story on that.
Yeah, Frankie's are all right by me, and so congratulations to him. And then Thomas Rosenmuller, who's also won this year, won this circuit, and then had a handful of top 10 finishes. And that's kind of the formula to get a PGA Tour card. You could be a Matt McCarty. You can go win 3 times, get a 3-win promotion, do something incredible that less than 24 people have ever done on the Korn Ferry Tour. But more than likely, you're someone who won an event, and then you figured out how to have a bunch of good finishes, piecemeal it all together, get yourself a PGA Tour card. It is not a one-and-done thing.
Well, you look at someone I ran into yesterday, Brian Campbell, who I'm a big fan. I've known since he was a kid at the University of Illinois. His past 5 Korn Ferry events, tied for 60, missed the cut, tied for 30, had a 7 and a 12. So he had 2 top 10, but he's got his card secured. He's number 7 on the list. He came out early and kept on going. And you feel like a lot of these guys trending. Ryan, as we start looking at this schedule and how the playoffs are working, this week is the top 120 guys that are playing. And, there's a cut this week. So the cut's at 65 plus ties. So there's going to be some scrapping going on down there. And if you look at someone like Doc Redman, who was on the show before, his past 5 where he missed the cut, the 30th, the 12th, and the 10th, and he's number 54 on the list. So he is in that stinging range of making the top 35, but he's safely in and on the top 75 guys too. So top 75 gets your full granted status on the Korn Ferry Tour for next year. But the 16 spots that are open are what these guys are shooting for. And if 16 guys move up, that means 16 guys got to move down. There's actually, this is pretty cool. I was checking it out. From 80 to 69, there's roughly about a 40-point swing, 315 points to 354 points. So that's a top 10 finish right there, a top 20 finish. And there's actually 3 guys, Chandler Bichette, Cole Hammer, and Jacob Solomon. They're all tied at 315 points from 78 to 80 is a logjam. So all of this stuff has mattered. And they start going into digits. So, just on the list alone, it says 315, but they go to an exponential number down the road of breaking everything down. So it's cool. We're excited.
There's a lot to play for sure.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, if you're either in that borderline top 75, you've got a lot to play for. Your first mission this week is to get through the cut in Columbus and then make sure you can get some points. If you're outside that 120 and you've got to climb, or outside that top 75 and you got to climb a long way, you got to make the cut to get your chance at the weekend. And then it's pedal to the metal. You go for everything. There's nothing to lose. And then that's a really interesting story this week for someone like a Bryson Nimmer, who's played his way through each stage of the playoffs so far. He has nothing to lose, everything to gain. So get to the weekend and then do what you can.
Yeah, I spoke to Bryson this week, and we'll do an interview with him. But, his last 5 were 61, miscut, 17, 26. So he's sitting at 113th on the list this week. So he's got to play his tail off. And he knows it. And he's got married too, man. So he's got someone else riding him besides us. So, but he's a great dude. He really just a nice, we played golf with him in Hilton Head earlier this year. And everything that he has done has really gone up and beyond. And I'm a big fan of his, not only professionally, but personally as well.
So everything sets the stage this week in Columbus. 120 down to 75, as you mentioned. Top 75 have full status for next year. That's a big deal.
Yep.
Then we've got 14 cards pretty much already claimed. You got basically half the cards left to play for based on the result in Columbus. You got half of them to claim still in French Lick, and that makes it a very exciting tournament from top to bottom, whether you get to number 1, number 30, into the top 75. There's a lot to play for in French Lick, and we're going to be there in just a couple weeks' time to document it all. So, Brendan, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, the Korn Ferry Championships presented by United Leasing and Finance, and will be on Golf Channel the first week of October. Actually, you guys can watch Golf Channel this week, Thursday through Sunday, 4 to 6 Eastern, to see who's fighting up the list. But Ryan, good luck. Thanks a lot, buddy. Look forward to it. Let's do a recap on this next week, leading up to French Lick, and then we'll be live from French Lick coming the first week of October.
Well, you know it. We got 30 cards in people's hands. Brendan, thanks so much.
See you, buddy.
Our second guest this week is Indiana native Joe Weiler, who finds himself at 40th in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings coming into this week in Columbus, Ohio, on the back of 3 top 10 finishes this year. He is on the cusp of earning a PGA Tour card at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. Talk to us about his season and the potential to get to the PGA Tour next year.
All right, Joe Weiler, welcome. Congratulations. It's been a fun run this year. Guide us through it a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a good year. Second year on this tour was a little bit easier than first, and I've played some good tournaments, played some great golf, especially the second half of the season. I think hitting the ball really well and kind of getting on some of these north courses and, Midwest where I'm used to it is nice. Get some lush bent grass and stuff like that. So season's been great. Looking forward to the last couple events and, doing what we can with it.
Does your blood start pumping a little bit more going from, as the playoffs continue and the road to French Lick is in focus now?
Yeah, I think it just makes it a little bit, more real. I feel like when you're kind of in the middle of the season and maybe you're playing 7 in a row, sometimes you almost get lost of where you're at in the season. And coming here, you have 2 events left. One at Scarlet and one at French Lick, so you kind of have to hunker down and make a move if you're going to do it. So it gets exciting towards the end, and I think the pressure, I don't know if it builds, but it's fun to be in the spot of where if you play well you can get a tour card.
So what's it like coming back here, being a Boilermaker, coming to the land of the Scarlet?
Yeah, I've played here a bunch. The last 2 courses I've played a bunch, so I feel like I'm at an advantage here. I played this course in tons of conditions, just being able to see it and play practice rounds, knowing what it's going to play like in the tournament is nice. Nice to have that in the back of your mind. Going from here and then going to French Lick will be. French Lick will be a little bit of a home game for me. I think I've definitely played it the most out of anybody in the field. Played a tournament there, Big Ten. So, it'll be fun next 2 weeks.
Well, we wish you the best of luck and hopefully get a hometown Hoosier victory in the Lick, baby.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I should have a lot of friends and family there, so hopefully we can put on a little show for them.
I know a guy who'd get you tickets.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
That'll do it for us this week on the road to French Lick. We appreciate you watching. Thanks so much. We'll have a show next week after the Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship, recapping that tournament, setting the stage for the top 75 players in the standings who will qualify for the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance, held on the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. We'll be broadcasting live from tournament site week of the tournament on GNN TV. We hope to see you then. And after the season ends at the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, we'll do a season wrap show looking back on our travels, our guests, as well as the 30 players who earn PGA Tour cards for 2025. For everyone at Golf News Net and everyone at the French Lick Resort, I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.